So it's been about 5 years since the last Tame Impala album. A lot of people might say it's been 10 years since the last good Tame Impala album. So was it worth the wait for this one? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say it was not worth the wait. Overall, while the production is pretty good, the songwriting is just not really there on a lot of these songs. He takes a lot of inspiration from like 90s, 2000s micro house, which is kind of an interesting genre to just suddenly take influence from because it's not the most exciting electronic music genre. It's not even the most exciting subgenre of house music. But nonetheless, here we are. And the album starts off with the first track actually being on just an acoustic piano, and that's it. And we kind of get some electronic stuff added in here, and it has almost like a field recording quality. You can hear at some point like some birds or some wind or something, and it kind of starts and ends with him not really talking like into the microphone, but just kind of like mumbling some things. Like you can hear other things going on, and I like that quality to it. But the song, for the most part, just goes back and forth between these two chords that are right next to each other, and it's just a very claustrophobic chord progression, which then just kind of trails off at the very end. It feels less like an outro and more like he just didn't know what to do, so he just played around until it felt like an ending. And that brings us into the second song, which you can immediately tell is almost the exact same chord progression, because where the first song is just B flat minor and A flat, this just moves that progression down a third, and now we have G flat and F minor. It's almost the same tempo, it's almost the same key, it's almost the exact same chord progression, and is still a very claustrophobic chord progression at that. So this song doesn't really add too much. And while I can't really be mad at him for trying to get more out of just a couple chords, in general, like that's fine. But to put two songs with almost the exact same chord progression back to back and make them the first two songs on the album, that's pretty ballsy. I guess he was hoping we wouldn't notice, but we did, and here we are. We're not off to a great start. However, the third song, Dracula, does pick up a little bit. We still get a similar claustrophobic chord progression, this time going from B flat minor up to B. So a slight change there. We also get some nice vocal harmonies in here. It's kind of going for like a Halloween dance song vibe. And I do love me a Halloween dance song, so I don't mind the song. It's okay. It's for sure a highlight of the album, even if it's not really like a perfect song. It does have some good stuff in it here and there. Unfortunately, that's about where the good stuff on the album ends, because then we get to Loser, which all I can really say is it's fine, I guess. It's just kind of got this one static riff, mostly centered around one chord, and it just kind of does that for most of the song. That's it. I don't really have much opinion or emotion about it. It just exists. It's there. But then we get to Oblivion, which is for sure one of the worst songs on here. It just has this overcompressed tremolo like dance beat, which sounds almost exactly like it was sampled from One Dance by Drake, which if you're going to sample a song, don't sample a Drake song. Sample like something better, which I don't know if he sampled it or if it's just by chance it sounds the same. Either way, it doesn't sound good. There's no really interesting chord progressions or melodies on this song. He really tries to save it with some, spacey psychedelic production and some sound effects here and there, but it just does not work. I don't think it could do nearly enough heavy lifting to save the song, given how egregious everything else is. Then we get to Not My World, which is pretty boring for the first half, and then suddenly has this transitionary section, which sounds exactly like Radiohead's Staircase. It's almost in the same key. They're only a half step apart and almost the exact same chord progression. It's literally almost the exact same thing. And then it does go into kind of an interesting end bit, but I don't like to have to wait 2/3 into the song to get to the only good part of it, which is the case for the next few songs like Piece of Heaven, which has actually one of the strongest choruses on the album, but again, takes too long to get to, doesn't last long enough, and everything in between them is pretty boring. And then we get to Obsolete, which is also a low point on the album, because this one sounds like he's trying to go for a 2000s R&B throwback by having some Latin guitars in here, which was a horrible trend 25 years ago and sounds even worse now. But again, we got to wait 2/3 into the song to get to the interesting part, where he then just starts repeating this riff, which is dangerously close to sounding like The Lick, just over and over again, before going into this motive that sounds like it would have been dated in a heavy metal song 40 years ago, and then dated even more in classical music 300 years ago. It just does this ba-da-da, 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 like from like Deep Purple's Highway Star or something. And it just sounds awful. It's like classic. It's like a classical idea, but with electronic instrumentation and with the Latin guitar behind it. I mean, I'm all for a weird mashup of genres or instruments, but it just does not come together on the song. It sounds horrendous. And then we've got Ethereal Connection, which is the longest song on the album, and boy do you feel it, because there's nothing ethereal about this song. You just have like a synth with a gate effect on it for almost the whole song, and just this pounding over compressed drum beat there. It's just beating you over the head with this one drum beat that's just bass and hi-hat the whole time. It's really just infuriating, and again, it gets to something cool at some point, but you gotta wait way too long to get into it. As is the case with the next song, See You Monday, and the song after that, Afterthought, which overall I would say is a highlight compared to what else is on the album. And it's a pretty fun dance song, if not just for the fact that the bass part sounds exactly like the bass part from Thriller. And then we get to the closing track, End of Summer, which was the lead single from the album, which is fine. I do think it's one of the stronger songs on the album. It changes it up consistently enough and has a little bit more development than most of the other songs on here, so it's definitely a strong closer, again, relative to what came before it, but it's still not amazing. So overall, while the album is a vibe, I suppose, it's really only worth having on in the background or maybe at a party if you're not really wanting to pay too much attention to it. You just want something with a beat and an occasional melody that might catch your ear. Then there you go. It's perfect for that. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think it warrants a listen through, from me at least, ever again. There's maybe 2 or 3 songs on here I would even consider putting on a playlist to listen to maybe ever again, and that's about it. So otherwise, yeah, unfortunately not a great outing from Tame Impala. I would give this album a C. Let me know in the comments if you liked the album, didn't like the album, were you disappointed by it? Leave a like, subscribe so we can start sharing some music, and I hope to hear from you soon.